I call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you for all coming tonight. First thing we're going to do is oath of office and certificate of election to new council members. Councilmember Duran and Mr. Andrew Rasmussen, would you please meet me up at the mic down here? Solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of South Dakota, and the Charter of the City of Brookings, that I will faithfully and impartially, to the best of my knowledge and ability, perform all the duties of the office of council member of the City of Brookings, South Dakota. I'm also going to have Bree sign the Governor Sands City Council of Ethics. And I think it doesn't matter which one. Okay, cool. All right, now I'll give them. Congratulations. All right, Mr. Rasmussen. Brookings City Council, oath of office. I, Andrew Rasmussen,
I, Andrew Rasmussen,
having been elected to the office of council member for the City of Brookings, South Dakota,
having been elected to the office of council member for the City of Brookings, South Dakota,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
Constitution of the State of South Dakota,
the Constitution of the State of South Dakota,
the Charter of the City of Brookings,
and the Charter of the City of Brookings,
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
and perform all the duties of the office of council member
and perform all of the duties of the office of council member
of the City of Brookings, South Dakota.
of the City of Brookings, South Dakota.
Go ahead and take care of that too. Go ahead and date it. Okay. Congratulations. I think I'll leave that on. Okay, our city clerk is absent this evening. Our deputy city clerk, Sean Scott, will take record of the council attendance.
All council members are present, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Action to approve the agenda. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Been moved and seconded. All those, will the city clerk call the roll?
Specker,
Aye.
Tilton Burn,
Aye.
Wendell,
Aye.
Avery,
Aye.
Duran,
Aye.
Niemeyer,
Aye.
Rasmussen.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 5, open forum. In order to provide equal access to all during the open forum, each member offering comments during the open forum shall not exceed the allotted 3-minute period. Your time to comment is expired when the red light on the podium appears. No further comments may be made by a member speaking during the open forum after the red light appears. That being said, do we have anybody from the gallery that would like to come up and speak to the City Council?
Jeanette Gibbons. I live in Brookings. And I'm here to speak on a topic based on information that I received from a friend this morning. I like how my days start out. I start out and I just kind of wake in wonder of what's going to come up on the radar today, and I don't have to wait very long. So first of all, I started off with an email from a friend who's a retired Air Force veteran, and he sent me a link to an interview that was done with Ryan Montgomery, and his claim to fame is that he is the #1 ethical hacker who hunts child predators, and in this particular podcast, he catches one live during the discussion. And this was on a program called The Sean Ryan Show. So Sean is spelled S-H-A-W-N, Ryan, R-Y-A-N. So Sean Ryan Show, and I found this on YouTube, so you can just go to YouTube and Google that name of the show, and there's several hits there. But this one that I watched was almost 3 hours long. And I don't normally carve out 3 hours of my day to watch a video. I did this one. So there's several timestamps in there. He starts out with kind of a lengthy discussion about his life, which is very interesting, I will say. He's a dropout from high school, self-taught, 19 years in the profession of being a white hat hacker. So he goes in and hacks systems for good. He helps companies find their vulnerabilities. He goes in now with his passion of getting into sites where there are things going on concerning children that should not happen anywhere. So he gets into this video, and about 1.5 hours into this podcast, he gets around to the main topic of the child predators. And he has broken into sites where adults go in to have conversations, and when he breaks in, he just records conversations. He doesn't try to go in and grab information that is not accessible. Anyone that's a member of this group could see these conversations that he's getting into. So he just has recorded information, and they have actually tracked down and caught perpetrators. So that was a big chunk of my day. Another part turned to ideas about how we are in control of our own life and what we make of our own life. So we may be in a 9-to-5 job that we detest, but it's very possible for us to take steps to change what we are, who we are, and what we do with the rest of our life. And those kinds of changes can happen moment by moment. If I don't like what I'm doing right now, and if I don't like the person I am and what I'm doing, saying, I can change that from one moment to the next. So there was a quote that popped up along that thought, and it says, "Life has no remote. Get up and change it yourself." And that came from a site called wondersdiary.com. Thank you for your time.
Okay, we'll move on. Consent agenda. Approval of the consent agenda. Are there any items that need to be removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment on any of the items on consent agenda? Please come forward, state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Emily Braun. I'm a resident of Brookings, and I'm the owner of Threads and Memories in downtown Brookings. Since malt liquor licenses are on the agenda, I thought it'd be an opportunity to keep this conversation going. For the record, I sent an article to the Register detailing my experiences with over-intoxication and destruction of property. Since the Speak Out, I've been receiving praise from other downtown business owners and community members, as well as hearing their stories. Let me be clear, I'm not trying to shut down the bars or restaurants, but there needs to be consequences and accountability for what has transpired over the last couple of years. Too often, small business owners are left picking up the pieces and cleaning up the messes of drunken debauchery. I think our community, our city, and our police department need to work together to find a solution. Thank you.
Any other comments from the public? Does council have any questions or comments on this item? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Tilton Burn.
Aye.
Wendell.
Aye.
Avery.
Aye.
Duran.
Aye.
Niemeyer.
Aye.
Rasmussen.
Aye.
Specker.
Aye.
Okay, got a proclamation, National Travel and Tourism Week. Invite Laura up to meet us with CVB. Or Visit Brookings now. Okay. All right. Whereas tourism fosters vibrant communities, drives innovation, and powers the economy as one of South Dakota's top industries. And whereas during 2022, 14.4 million visitors came to South Dakota, spending $4.7 billion in our state, which generated $361 million in taxes to help pay for things like parks, street, police, fire protection. And whereas thanks to the tourism industry, each household in South Dakota saves $1,015 per year in taxes. And whereas visitors to Brookings County spend $115 million on lodging, food and beverage, recreation, retail, and transportation in 2022, and generated $8.6 million in state and local taxes for our community. And whereas the tourism industry supports 1,897 jobs in Brookings, with an annual payroll of $32.7 million for residents in our community. And whereas Visit Brookings is the official destination marketing and promotion organization for tourism in Brookings, with staff working diligently to promote our community to travelers coming to try our restaurants, see our attractions, and participate in tournaments, meetings, and events. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Ope G. Niemeyer, Mayor of the City of Brookings, do here proclaim May 7th to the 13th, 2023, as National Travel Tourism Week. Go ahead.
Well, thank you to the City Council and the Mayor and everyone watching and in the audience. Tourism is all around us. We get to be tourists every day, whether you're in the community or traveling somewhere else. And we're just so very excited to be able to celebrate National Travel and Tourism Week this week, but we celebrate tourism every single day. And we invite you as local residents to be tourists in Brookings and see our Grade 8, visit our restaurants, do a staycation in our hotels. There's a lot of really great things to see and do in our community. We have many great partners. We couldn't do this without all of our attractions and hotels and restaurants and downtown stores. We have so much as a community to offer, so much as a state to offer, and we encourage everyone to get out and enjoy it and be part of this wonderful industry. Thank you so much.
Move on to the next item, our first quarter finance report. Ashley Wrench, our senior finance manager, will present this report.
Good evening, Mayor and members. First quarter 2023 finance report. And in this presentation, I'll go over the 2023 year-to-date sales tax revenue for January through March. I'll also discuss where we're at in terms of our budget to actuals and update you on the ARPA funding allocation to our community initiatives and our City Council Priority Projects Fund. As of the end of March, for first, second, and third penny sales tax plus the bid or pillow tax combined, we have received almost $4.8 million. This is approximately $445,000 or 10% more than last year for the same period, and 14% or $573,000 more than budget. Some economic factors that kept sales tax performing better than expected over the first 3 months of the year included relatively high inflation, which was 6.4% in January, 6% in February, and approximately 5% in March. When we look at the sales tax revenue by category, we see gains in all categories except the manufacturing and transportation, communications, and utility sectors. Fortunately, the overall increases helped offset these declines, and we're only in the first quarter, so we can keep monitoring the category performance as the year progresses. Moving on to an overall economic update for the first quarter, the main theme is mismatched expectations between the Fed versus the market. As the Fed has increased rates, some larger banks have felt the effects, causing some newsworthy bank failures in past couple of months and setting the stage for some future uncertainties. In the first quarter, there was a lack of progress in containing inflation with the Fed's target of 2.5% and the actual inflation averaging about 5.8% for the first 3 months. At this point, goods inflation is trending a bit lower and services inflation is trending a bit higher, and it will be interesting to see how the upcoming travel season will be impacted by this. Many employers have increased wages to combat the effects of inflation on employees. However, the higher wage trend has also led to higher demand, thus keeping inflation high. Some challenges that we may face over the next quarter or two include a possible mild recession with little impact on inflation, as well as reduced confidence in the Federal Reserve and economic policy. Currently, the outlook is a bit uncertain because the housing market is still hot and typically slower to respond to economic factors. And if the student loan payment moratorium ends in September as planned, this will lead to less discretionary income and possibly slow down demand as well. Jumping into our first quarter budget to actuals, you can't see, but the general fund departments, we've spent almost $4 million and 17% of our budget, and overall revenues are at 64% or $945,000. The main driver of that high revenue figure being insurance reimbursements for derecho-related repairs that are being completed this year. Government buildings, community development, police, fire, and public works departments are all near or above that 25% target for expenditures, with all other departments trending a bit lower to start out the year. This is really due to conservative spending overall and the idea that those departments' operations are more consistent throughout the year and less affected by seasonality. The revenues are trending near target for most of those departments as well. Larson Ice Arena is higher than target as expected based on their winter operations, and the street department is also trending high so far this year for revenue due to their partnership with the solid waste department in providing supplies and maintenance.
Ashley, you can continue to move forward. It's on the screens at the back, and the screens
okay.
for council and at home.
Okay.
I think we just probably need to spend the money on the bulb
Okay.
without trying to save money. Thank you.
In the Capital Improvements Fund, we've spent about 3% of the budget and brought in about 13% of revenues. Some of the largest CIP expenditures in the first quarter included the final payment for the fire training tower, street and sidewalk improvement project engineering, library chiller and ceiling tiles, and 4 police department vehicles. As a whole, including the enterprise funds, we have spent approximately $9 million or 12% of our budget so far this year and brought in about $7.7 million or 18% of our departmental revenues. This slide shows an update of our community ARPA funding. Last year, we approved a total of $2.2 million to be allocated to the community partners to support our initiatives such as mental health, childcare, and housing. So far, we've paid out $85,537. $80,000 of that was paid to Clark Drew Construction for workforce housing, Phase 1 at 15th Street South and 17th Avenue South, and this includes 3 buildings with a total of 8 units. Interlakes Community Action Partnership, or ICAP, was reimbursed for $5,537 for rental and deposit assistance in the first quarter. Finally, I'll briefly go over the City Council priority projects summary. Our 2022 financial statements are currently in the audit phase, but we're estimating our total reserves to start 2023 at almost $11.8 million after using almost $3.2 million for initiatives such as the Swiftel Center HVAC system, the fire training tower, and the 2022 facility improvements last year. So far, we have not allocated any reserves to projects in 2023, but we are estimating our current top priority project, the Public Safety Center, to cost approximately $21 million. $850,000 to upgrade the Swiftel Center's holding barn for indoor rec purposes is second on the list. And as you can see, these two primary projects would exceed current reserves by over $10 million. Our secondary priority projects include upgrading the golf course irrigation system and an overall upgrade to the library at $1.5 million each. And to fund all of these projects, we would need an additional $13.1 million. Here's a list of all of our desired projects, including the priority projects listed on the previous slide, in addition to a new police vehicle and training simulator, various park improvements, climate action plan, park shop addition, trails, street equipment, and parking lot upgrades at the Swiftel Center. This concludes the first quarter finance report. Feel free to ask any questions now, or feel free to contact me if you would like any.
Ashley, do you have any questions? Councilmember Specker.
Limit on when the ARPA funds can be distributed?
Not that I know of, we don't have any.
No, traditionally it's 2024, I believe, but the way in which the city received them, we were able to utilize those dollars differently, so there's no time restriction on those dollars.
Thanks.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, we'll move on to City Council ex officio reports. Councilmember Avery or Specker, do we have a report from BMU?
Yep, the BMU board met yesterday in elections of board officers. They also presented the quarterly financial review and recent audit results, and both of those were favorable. They discussed the first reading of the irrigation water rates that are going to be reviewed. There's going to be an increase with those, which is related to the irrigation systems, not home water rates, not the summer excess. There's a couple of sewer connections that were approved, including Hillcrest School, and the various departments presented their monthly reports. That's all.
Thank you. Cell system. Councilmember Duran.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Meeting, the May 8th through the 12th is Hospital and Nursing Home Week, so they have a few events throughout the week planned to celebrate their staff there. We talk every meeting about retention and retainment and hiring, and so a performance improvement plan was implemented to track all new hires in their orientation process to ensure proper training is received for them to be successful, along with a few other steps to just make sure that all new hires feel confident and comfortable in their positions. A power cot and power load system for the ambulance arrived, which is a hydraulic-powered system designed to support and transport patients. And a grant was recently secured to upgrade the portable radios utilized in the pre-hospital settings, such as the ambulance as well. And then finally, we discussed the 2023 to 2026 strategic plan, starting with the finance pillar. So each meeting will be going over each pillar, kind of massaging the wording, creating the new strategic plan. So we'll have updates soon about that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Contracts and change orders. Item 8A, action on resolution 23-046, a resolution approving the installation of a new roofing system for the Swiftel Center arena roof. Jared Thomas, our chief building official, will present this item.
Thank you, Mayor. Member 3046 would authorize a purchase and installation of a flute fill overlay re-roofing project for the Swiftel Center arena roof. The contract would be with Duralast Incorporated, which is a national roofing vendor, and it would be, we would use an the interlocal purchasing system, which is a cooperative purchasing agreement. As you know, the Swiftel Center arena roof was damaged in the 2022 trade show. It has taken us some time to find a vendor that has the time and capacity for a roofing project like this. We were able to find a company called Woodall Companies out of Kentucky. They're a national company. They do a lot of work, not necessarily in South Dakota, but various other states in the area. They provided us with two options. Option one was a complete removal and replacement of the steel roof. And option 2 was what they call flute fill overlay. And so city staff met with Woodall Companies. We really dove into, what compared and contrasted the two. And option 2 is the one that we came up with, and that is the flute fill overlay. A couple things we looked at is option 2, that the expense of that roofing recover falls within the replacement cost value that was established by our insurance provider. It has a less lead time, quicker installation time. It's a matter of weeks for an install versus 6+ weeks. There will be an increase in R value for the roof, and it would have a lot less impact on the Swiftel Center for scheduling and their grounds. With that, city staff recommend approval as presented, and I would stand for any questions.
Thank you, Jared.
So move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment on this item? Any questions from council? Please call the roll.
Wendell.
Aye.
Avery.
Aye.
Duran.
Aye.
Niemeyer.
Aye.
Rasmussen.
Aye.
Specker.
Aye.
Tiltonburn.
Aye.
Item 8B, action on resolution 23-045, a resolution authorizing change order number 1 for the Swiftel Center HVAC system upgrade, Johnson Controls Incorporated. Michael Logan, our Swiftel.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. Resolution 23-045 would award Johnson Controls a project change for the 2 existing gas water heaters. In May of 22, the City Council approved a resolution to award a bid to Johnson Controls in the amount of $1,425,166 to upgrade the HVAC system. Upon inspection of some old hot water heaters in the arena, they recommended us change to instant hot water heaters. This is just due to the age and condition of those existing hot water heaters. This change order is in the amount of $25,920. It would increase the contract price to $1,451,086. This change order would still be within the original do not exceed of the contract of $1.5 million. This is within the City Council strategic plan. It supports fiscal responsibility in replacing old aging equipment. With that, I'll stand by for any questions.
Motion to approve.
So moved.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, does the council have any questions or comments? I think this is a pretty good idea to do this because I would imagine those water heaters are original water heaters, and if they're not, they're probably over 10 years old, so water heaters don't last too long in this town from what I gather. So I'm certainly in favor of this, and with that being said, please call the roll.
Avery.
Aye.
Duran.
Aye.
Niemeyer.
Aye.
Rasmussen.
Aye.
Specker.
Aye.
Tiltonburn.
Aye.
Wendell.
Motion passes. Item 9, ordinances, first readings. Item 9A, introduction and first reading on ordinance 23-018, an ordinance amending Article 3 of Chapter 42 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Brookings, South Dakota. Paul Brusino, our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council members. This item came to us at the request of the Brookings system, and I believe there is the Brookings chair is here to speak to this item as well. The request is very minor. It eliminates the need to meet monthly as the board currently meets quarterly. There is also some language in here that outlines the way in which funds will be reported to the city through auditing process rather than going through the city clerk, which is noted within their city code. Other than that, everything else is fairly minor within the request that's before City Council. There is a red line version as well as the final version noted within the packet. With that, would stand for any questions council might have.
Public comment on this item. Seeing none, council have any questions or comments at this time? All right, second reading will be May 23rd. Item 10, public hearings and second readings. Item 10A, second reading and action on ordinance 23-017, an ordinance authorizing budget amendment number 4 to the 2023 budget. Ashley Wrench, our Senior Finance Manager, will present this item.
This is ordinance 23-017, authorizing amendment number 4 to the 2023 budget. The amendment creates a capital project fund and detention basin and tax increment district number 9 for stormwater management adjacent to the property recently transferred to Milborn Seeds. This project is expected to cost approximately $510,000, including design and construction, and will be initially funded with economic development reserves, with tax increment revenues refunding those reserves. This project will directly benefit the land intended for economic development in the agriculture sector, which is consistent with the city's economic development master plan. No changes have been made since the first reading, and staff recommends approval of this ordinance as presented.
A motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, council questions, comments? Please call the roll.
Duran,
Aye.
Niemeyer,
Aye.
Rasmussen,
Aye.
Stecker,
Aye.
Tiltonburn,
Aye.
Wendell, Avery,
Aye.
Motion passed. Item 10B, public hearing and action on ordinance 23-012, an ordinance to change the zoning within the city limits of Brookings. 20.28 acres along 20th Street South. Mike Struck, our Community Development Director, will present this item.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. The ordinance before you tonight is to rezone approximately 20 acres of land from an agricultural ag district to residence R3 apartment district. The area is located along 20th Street South, just east of the Fishback Soccer Complex. The zoning within the immediate area adjacent to it consists of ag zoning R2 and a proposed B2 zoning district to the north of this particular property. This does come to you with a unanimous recommendation from the Planning Commission staff, and the development team both support this request. This is tonight that have an interest in this. This is just the rezoning portion of it. The preliminary plat and large-scale residential development will come forward. It's being held up right now until the traffic impact study is finalized. Some of the results of that will be incorporated into the preliminary platting process. So we're speaking just simply to the rezoning tonight. I would stand for any questions you may have.
That we probably will have some people here that are concerned about drainage, concerned about traffic. Definitely make comments so that we can take that into consideration in the future. And then entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. I open the public hearing on this item. Is there any public comment?
Good evening, members of council and city staff. My name is Angie Boersma, and I'm from Ideate Architecture, appearing on behalf of the applicants. Last time we were here, one of the requests was made to make sure that we provided some context for the project and a bit of background and renderings. So wanted to provide this information so that folks have an idea of what's being planned here, hopefully alleviate some of the concerns of the neighborhood. What you see before you is a plan map over health. The total number of buildings in this planned development is 72, with a total of 130 living units. As compared to the adjacent area, Bluegill neighborhood is approximately 68 living units and 54 buildings. So for a sense of scale, the slide before you, you see our fourplex, in most cases, is the size of a typical duplex along Bluegill. And so these are smaller living units with a smaller footprint. Again, to Mike's point, the LSRD and the preliminary plat will come before you in a future meeting, but wanted to be able to provide some context. So as you continue to kind of flip through the slide deck, there is off-street guest parking available. So 36 spaces have been provided in the planned kind of development, as well as on-street parking availability on the west sides of each of the streets in the loop, because we've got garages facing the alley. You don't have the interruption of driveways that you have to maintain kind of clear space for. So there's an abundance of parking in that area. Every single unit is provided its appropriate number of parking spaces in garages and off-street as well. And then some of the renderings follow, so you can kind of get a sense of the scale of the neighborhood. So what you see is the area immediately behind Bluegill's cul-de-sac area. Most of those are single-family, two-family, and the largest of which is a three-family, which is the size of one of the townhouses, the duplexes on Bluegill. The overall footprint is actually smaller than the townhouses on Bluegill. So just a sense of scale and proportion, detailing materiality, so that folks get an idea of what's actually being proposed in this area. So with that, hopefully that context helps aid in the overall conversation. Thank you.
My name is Justin Booker. I am a consulting civil engineer for the project, and just want to talk quick about some of the drainage concerns and maybe some of the traffic concerns as well. The developers did do a traffic study. We have received a preliminary version of it back from HDR, our sub-consultant, and we did have a chance to go through some questions and comments with city staff, Charlie and John. So that was really good to talk with them about that, and hopefully they will get their findings finalized very soon and we can get the preliminary plat before you. There was also some concerns on drainage, and at the preliminary plat stage for planning and zoning, preliminary drainage plan was submitted to city engineering for review. That plan did meet the requirements of the city, and that plan was approved. I believe on the PDF submitted, there is a grading plan. There will be a detention pond. The pond shown was for the preliminary drainage plan. We are working with city staff on potentially doing some other improvements in the area. I know it is city staff's wish to combine this pond with the existing pond with the soccer park. The city is working with a separate consultant on a master drainage plan, working on logistics to see if that is going to work out or not. If it does, the developer is willing to kind of combine their pond and make some of these improvements. Most of the drainage in this area is going to flow south and away from the Bluegill area. If we go ahead a couple slides, we can see some of the contours from there. Slide actually. So there is kind of a ridge there where that connecting street is shown, and that water does flow to the southwest. You can kind of see the blue and cyan colors there. Those are the existing contours, or the proposed contours, excuse me. So this water is going to be directed to the southwest towards that pond. There's going to be a pretty healthy amount of storm sewer in this area to collect runoff. It hasn't completely been designed yet, but final plans will be submitted to the city when we get to that point and will be submitted for review by city staff. I guess with that, I would stand for any questions.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions from the public?
Bluegill. The question I have is why R3? Everything else around there is R2. Can somebody explain to me? Because if for some happens and the development doesn't happen, guess what? An apartment's coming in there. So can somebody explain to me why it was zoned R3 instead of R2? I mean, I'd like to see it R1, but that's not going to happen. R2, why R3? Like to know that. If the apartment complex I don't want a big apartment. Can you guarantee me that? That it's not gonna be a big apartment? I've seen a lot of plans and I've seen things change too. So,
I guess I can kind of answer some of your questions here. And the developer representatives might be able to as well. The difference between the R1, R2, and R3, the reasons why they're going with the R3 is for the setbacks and the variances that are requested to really capitalize on the land. Knowing that we only have so much land available in the community, they really wanted to create a design that capitalizes, or that is able to capture the best use of the land. And so that's why the R1, R2 doesn't allow that. They are coming back with what's called an LSRD here at the next meeting. The only way the developer could actually change that plan to go to what you're saying, an apartment, would be at the approval of the city council. So it would have to have further conversations by council. Council would have to ultimately approve it. The developer would not have that authority to just throw in an apartment if they chose to go with it.
okay. Yeah, because I mean, that does concern me. I mean, plans change, things change, and I don't want one of those big apartment complexes that you see to the west of us. So, the other thing is traffic. I mean, I wish folks would come ask the people that live at Bluegill what the traffic is. I mean, you guys can do all your studies, but come, please talk to us about it. Traffic is very busy there, the bottom of Bluegill Circle. People, every day, lots of traffic coming down, and I just get concerned. You know, there's gonna be a new road up there. That road, they're gonna say people are gonna go to the north. I know better than that. They're gonna come to the south because they're gonna get on 17th. So, we're gonna have some traffic issues, but talk to the people that live in that area. So that's my only question. And if, when you do the traffic study, share that information with us. So that's my comments.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else in the public? Please come up.
I'm Jeannie Rosso. Sorry, Jeannie Rosso. I live on Bluegill in Brookings. One of the questions I have is they talk about this retention pond, which will be close to our homes, and I'm wondering where that will drain out of, because if right now there's a fair amount of water that gathers in that area already, so if you put it in one big pond that just sits there, is it going to be like a breeding ground for mosquitoes and bugs and things that will just be a continued hazard for the area, or is there some way for that pond to then drain? Where will that go? Is it just going to be like a sitting pond, or is it going to be something that will, like, when it rains, it fills up and then it empties?
I think that ultimately depends on the final engineering plan. As the developer's representatives mentioned, that has been submitted to city staff. They're working through that. If it could be part of the overall existing pond, then it'll be just the existing pond expanded. And so it'll continue to contain water. Ultimately, that system is built, and maybe our Public Works Director can talk a little bit to this if I'm incorrect in the statement, but that system is ultimately built that if it has overflow, it ultimately flows further to the west than ultimately to the south. And so it's all part of a natural system. As the engineer also spoke, it all flows to the south-southwest, and the idea is to continue to capture that and make that part of an overall larger system.
So will that be a large, like, regrading? Because right now, that pond that's there, when it overflows, it comes the other direction. If it is designed to go to the west, it currently comes toward the east when it overflows.
Yeah, once again, I have not seen that engineering plan.
Thank you. Any other comments?
David Van Sambeek on Avalon Circle. Now, this new pond that's coming in, are we guaranteed the water's gonna go south and west, or is it gonna go back to the east? And how deep is that gonna be so that it gets down to the aquifer, so it never really drains? Because between the east pond and the west pond going to the west is maxed out. Now you add another one to it, there's no flow to the west to Madeira and then goes south. That's all full of cattails and it never flows. What is gonna be done with that? Gonna go east.
currently, like, this is,
I would say, as mentioned, we haven't received, or I haven't had a chance to look at the engineer's flood plan. Once again, it's not me that makes that determination. Public Works will be working with the direct, or with the engineer. And so there's still a lot of nuances here to work through. But at the end of the day, the intention is to capture that water and ensure that it continues to flow at the natural direction, and that's to the west and ultimately to the south.
Okay, then could somebody relay some of this information after you get it to us as homeowners?
Once again, when the LSRD comes forward, the traffic safety analysis will be in there, because I know there's some people concerned about the traffic safety. The impacts from the traffic safety will be as part of that plan, and then ultimately the engineered stormwater process will, I assume, will be part of the plan. Mike, would that be correct?
That would be correct. I mean, I understand everyone's concerns here tonight, but it's premature to be talking about the actual development. You have to have the zoning set in place so that you can know what you're designing to. So that's the discussion tonight, is the rezoning, whether or not it's appropriate for an R3 zoning in this particular location. Once that decision's determined, then you move to the next step with designing with the preliminary plat, and in this case, the large-scale residential development plan. And that's where you do get into those details, but I understand your concerns, but it's irrelevant to the rezoning tonight. The question is whether or not it's appropriate location for an R3 zoning in this part of the community. And once that's determined, then we move to the next step, which is the preliminary plat and the large-scale residential development that would come to a future meeting. But with the preliminary plat, it includes, you know, the street layouts, the utility layouts, the grading plan, the preliminary drainage plan, kind of the lot layouts, and all those things are shown on the preliminary plat.
Well, I just don't want us to be forgotten about the drainage thing, though.
It's a requirement of every development.
Okay, thanks.
thank you. Concerns?
Just trying to do the best for all of us, okay? Attention to Brookings and anybody in Brookings. Anyone that knows this area has been water issues for all my life. We need to get the water out to the river. Anyone who has ever had sewer backup, any kind of water issues, all the water's going to Madera. You got water coming down from all this new building from the east. Once they put that bike path in there, it's forcing all the water down to Madera. You got Mills is blocking off some water running west, and it's just gonna backflow into all these people that have had water issues all their life. I've been told water comes from as far as Indian Hills to Mills to Madera, and anyone who live here has seen the water back up on 20th Street. Hey, welcome to Brookings when the I-29 opens. And you got a detour flood sign. It's gonna happen, guys. You're gonna have to do something here. Wait, we can't, I've heard all my life. We'll do something about it. I have people sitting here in front of me that promised this would be a #1 issue when it comes. And thank you to Bonnie and some that have listened. I appreciate that. Oh my gosh. The water, Windermere, 17th Avenue, all that comes. It's all gonna hit a window here. You got the pond on the Fishbeck proposal. Putting another pond there is gonna hinder all the water from 2 ponds up by Frank and me and the other guys, the bluegill. All that water's now being forced north. They put in a culvert big enough to walk through, so it tells you what kind of water's gonna come through that area. And it's gonna force it all down to Madera again. You're gonna have a dam, you're gonna hit, it's gonna back up. Nobody can tell you. Nobody can tell you, not Banner, what's gonna happen, because we haven't had a 3-inch rain since all these changes have happened. I know they got their paper, and on paper it looks good, and this should hold this much water. You're gonna dig about 2 feet and you're gonna hit water. That's all you're gonna get out of there. I'm glad they're going further off. The addition looks nice. It could be worse people that fighting, that might be against it, but it could be a whole lot worse, like your big apartment. So what they're proposing, I'm not fighting that. I'm not asking for it either, I'm just saying. The mistakes from the past, we can't do nothing about that, but we can, here's something that really might help. You might want to consider on the pond there by Avondale, you got a pond on each side there in the Bluegill addition. If you could maybe consider buying the, what's his name? Land, Judy. The land out there, there's a gravel pit, and you could bring your water around to the back door there, and you could get about 10 acres maybe of the Morarity's land where there's already water issues. He might let you just have that section because it's probably not that around, and then you could kitty corner that in there and you could get a lot of water out that way. And along with future, maybe putting some little gullies in on the bike trail and letting some of that water go over into those other ponds too would help. And sorry to offend people, but to tell the truth, sometimes you have to do it, and it's time we step up and do this. I've heard too long, we're working on it. It's been 20 years or so, I've heard that. It's time to address this big issue with all the beautiful building we're doing. It looks nice. We're improving Brookings, but we have to, I doubt it's possible, but if you waited for a 3-inch rain, you'd see it all. Then we'll prove how bad it's gonna be. No one will probably wait for that. But that would show us we can't just keep pounding in all the building without seeing the water issues first. It's gonna be a mess. And for the people asking about, it's gonna be water out there nonstop. It always has been. The ponds are gonna be bigger and fuller. Thank you for giving me this time, and I really appreciate it. Bonnie, listen to me. She goes in the area, she knows the area. She's seen it. Opie, you promised at voting time it would be a number one issue, and along with, I forget which are the other ones of you, but
We've got a drainage study coming now.
But there are people way smart, some really good ideas how to get the water out here, and if I can talk them in to addressing, who would I have them go to? Which person? I don't. All I hear is the same, he looks at the paper and says it should work. There's already issues out there. Your papers can't compound all the issues that exist. It doesn't show the true facts. Can I go, is there anyone above him I can talk to? Or bring other people smarter than me?
The next person above the public works director would be me, the city manager. But as the mayor said, we do have a stormwater master plan underway, which we are taking public comment, and those people are much smarter than I when it comes to stormwater master.
Is that one that they spent $450,000 on in the past still relevant from, was it the 70s?
I couldn't tell you, but I do know your time is up, and if
Okay.
you want to have this conversation,
Thank you.
feel free to give me a call. We can have further conversations.
Everyone can vote if you don't like what's happening. It's time to get more than 3,000 people voting.
Is there any other public comments, questions? Any council questions or comments? Councilmember Wendell.
Okay, I don't want to take this conversation off topic. I fully understand and appreciate that we're having a conversation about zoning this evening. I just want to confirm a couple details because I think maybe given the conversation and the comments that were made tonight, there would be some folks watching that would just want to make sure they understand the sequence. So the large-scale residential development plan that'll come before us, do we have an approximate timeline if the zoning is approved this evening that would be in a public meeting?
So the large-scale residential development plan is part of the preliminary plat process. It's been submitted, it's been recommended for approval through the Planning Commission contingent upon implementation of the traffic impact study. The traffic impact study was underway at the time. We've got the preliminary draft of the traffic impact study. It's just not finalized yet. Part of the reason for that is if there's recommendations that come out of that, we wanted to incorporate in the preliminary plat and the LSRD so that we're not back here the meeting after trying to make amendments to what you just approved. And so it's kind of a timing sequence thing. Cautiously optimistic that it could be something that you may see in a few weeks. If not, it might be the first meeting in June. It's currently being evaluated by staff, and as part of that, they have to offer comments back on the traffic impact study as part of that whole process.
So by early June, it's pretty likely that we'll see the large-scale residential development plan in a public venue like this, at a meeting.
And it's already available on the website. If they go to the April 4th Planning Commission meeting, they can see the preliminary plat on there. It's listed large-scale residential development. With the large-scale residential development, it's a little bit of, through the design process, you can ask for some variances to your traditional zoning, and so that's some of what they did with their setbacks. They also list out the maximum density that they would propose. They also listed that it'll be a combination of single-family 2, 3, and 4 unit structures. That's it. So to the earlier comment about the R3, why the R3 in an apartment district, it's because of the flexibility that the R3 zoning provides, with the setbacks, the lot areas, some of those requirements, the heights.
Can I ask a question too, or just get some clarity on the sequencing of the master drainage plan? Now, there were drainage comments brought forward this evening. It sounds like there's some issues around Bluegill that maybe would be further impacted by drainage decisions in this development. Is the master drainage plan going to come to us after we have to make a decision on the large-scale residential plan that'll come to us in June? Will we have any knowledge about the master drainage plan at that stage?
No, the master drainage plan is currently underway. That won't come to council probably till this fall. John? Yeah, correct. This fall. It's that process. It's been long underway. Some of that reasoning behind that is we're also waiting on finalization of FEMA maps as well.
Sure. Okay. I'm just thinking through some of the information that was shared about the retention pond that's there currently and whether or not decisions we will make will impact how well that is working. It sounds like right now maybe it's not draining in the way that it was initially designed to drain, or we hope this next pond will, but it sounds like that conversation will happen in June when the full plan comes before us.
Just to respond to that, I think that's probably hearsay from the citizen. The engineering staff has reviewed it. It appears that it is draining as designed. There are consultants that we are utilizing for the stormwater master plan. We're also engaging to look at expanding this existing drainage cell or pond to capitalize on this development. So there are some nuances and some inner workings there between that developer or that consultant.
Okay. The last question I was just going to ask is whether or not the slides that the developer shared this evening are on the website right now. I didn't think they were linked to the agenda.
No.
Were they just new tonight?
They're just new tonight.
Okay.
Those slides aren't a requirement of the review process.
No, I understand.
So it was something that was requested at the last meeting, and they brought them tonight to make available as part of the presentation. But that's not something, I don't want to give the public a false sense of security that that's how the structures are going to look, because there's no design requirements from the type of housing. That's a conceptual to show what could be, but they may follow through with that particular design. They may have some other more creative designs that they come up with. So it's showing conceptuals of what it could look like. I can't speak on behalf of the developer, but from the city's perspective, that is not a requirement of our review process or submittal process. So that's why it's not really public. As staff, we don't even have a copy of it.
Thanks.
Council. Seeing none, please call the roll.
Niemeyer,
Aye.
Rasmussen,
Aye.
Specker,
Aye.
Tilton Burn,
Aye.
Wendell, Avery,
Aye.
Duran.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 10C, public hearing and action on ordinance 23-013, an ordinance changing the zoning within the city of Brookings, 2.85 acres along 20th Street South. Mike Strucker, Community Development Director, will present this item.
I'll let a few people clear out. Ordinance 23-013 is a rezoning for the 2.85 acres up along 20th portion of the rezoning request that you just heard. That one was a little over 20 acres. This is further north, kind of across from Tanberry Lane, from the Windermere subdivision. The adjacent zoning in the area is there's ag immediately next door to the east. With your previous action, there's R3 to the south of this, and then there's some residential across the street. 20th Street South is a changing corridor for the community. With the anticipation of the interchange opening this summer, there's been quite a bit of interest over the last couple of years for smaller scale commercial development along this corridor. We're seeing a little bit more at some of our major nodes along 22nd and Main Avenue South, where the commercial areas are a little larger. But we found there's a need for some smaller commercial areas type needs and providing some neighborhood services. The comprehensive plan does support a rezone to B2 in this particular area. It does come with a unanimous recommendation from the Planning Commission, and the staff and development review team support the rezoning request. It is consistent with one of your City Council strategic goals of economic growth and providing opportunities for new and expanding businesses in the community. With that, I would stand for any questions you may have.
Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment on this item? Any council questions or comments? Please call the roll.
Rasmussen.
Aye.
Becker.
Aye.
Tilton Burn.
Aye.
Wendell. Avery.
Aye.
Gran.
Aye.
Niemeyer.
Aye. Motion passes. Item 10D, public hearing and action on ordinance 23-014, an ordinance to change the zoning within the city of Brookings, Pre-Village Indian Hills Edition. Mike Struck, our Community Development Director, will present this item.
Thank you. The rezoning request before you tonight with ordinance 23-014 is to rezone from a B3 heavy district and an RB4 neighborhood business district to a planned development district with the business B2. Location is Main Avenue South and Trail Ridge Road and Crystal Ridge Road. The owners of the property are proposing a planned development district at that particular location. They chose the B2 underlying zoning district. They would like to do a mixed-use facility closer to Main Avenue on the corner there, with a combination of a couple of commercial opportunities on the main floor, with the second and third level being of the residential component. On the back side of the property, they are proposing some residential uses, combination of a twin home, and then some combinations of some 4 units that would be designed to look like an oversized, larger structure with a couple of garages, approximately 3 front doors, and then the second area where there'd be 2 single units. They looked at it as a planned development because they want to tie the entire site together. And with the combination of various uses, the PDD worked the best for them with the B2 underlying, and it does allow the uses that are being proposed. As part of the planned development district process, they have to go through an initial development plan, which you will see later on in your agenda tonight. And then once that's approved, then they submit a final development plan to the Planning Commission for their review and approval, which does get into more of the design details. There's also a preliminary plat associated with this that'll be on the agenda later this evening. This is consistent with the urban medium intensity within our comprehensive plan. It is another opportunity to meet some of the City Council strategic goals when it comes to economic growth and providing infill development within the community for both the residential and commercial use. And this does come with a unanimous recommendation from the Planning Commission, the staff and development review team support the request, and I'd stand for any questions you may have.
Entertain a motion to approve.
So move.
Moved second. Open the public hearing on this item. Is there any public comment? Close the public hearing. Any comments from council? Questions? Please call the roll.
Specker.
Aye.
Tilton Burn.
Aye.
Wendell.
Aye.
Avery.
Aye.
Duran.
Aye.
Niemeyer.
Aye.
Rasmussen.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 10E, public hearing and action on ordinance 23-015, an ordinance to change the zoning within the city of Brookings, Prairie Hills Edition. Mike Struck will present this item also.
Council, this rezoning as well as the next rezoning item are both cleanup rezonings. When a developer comes in and proposes an original rezoning, they really don't have the detail of the preliminary layout or the final plating at that particular time. And so when they pick boundaries, they do a lot by a legal description, footage description. Sometimes it matches up nicely with platted lot lines, and other times not so much. This is what this action tonight is simply to clean up some of those parcels or lots out there that have split zoning or a combination of two zonings on one piece of property. And so we're trying to align that more with the actual platted lot lines. So the first action here in the Prairie Hills Edition is rezoning from a B2 district to a residence R3 apartment district, and it aligns kind of where you see the large apartment buildings being constructed down in Prairie Hills. Some of the parcels in that vicinity have the split zoning running through the property, and so we just wanted to clean this up. This does come to you as a unanimous recommendation from the Planning Commission. The staff and development review team both support the request, and I'd stand for any questions you may have.
Need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Open the public hearing on this item. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, does the council have any questions, comments? Please call the roll.
Tilton Burn.
Aye.
Wendell.
Aye.
Avery.
Aye.
Duran.
Aye.
Niemeyer.
Aye.
Rasmussen.
Aye.
Specker.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 10F, public hearing and action on ordinance 23-016, an ordinance to change the zoning within the city of Brookings, Prairie Hills Edition. Mike will also present this item.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. This is a cleanup item in the Prairie Hills Edition. This particular rezoning request is to change the zoning from a residence R3 apartment district to a residence R1B single family. It's just a little bit further south. Once again, it's split zone lots. We're just trying to clean the zoning up to follow the actual lot lines. Does come to you with a unanimous recommendation from the Planning Commission. The Development Review Team and staff support the request.
Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, please, council have any questions, comments? Please call the roll.
Wendell.
Aye.
Avery.
Aye.
Duran.
Aye.
Niemeyer.
Aye.
Rasmussen.
Aye.
Specker.
Aye.
Tilton Burn.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 10G, public hearing and action to move a single-story residential home from 1218 6th Street to the property described as Lot 4, Block 9, Moriarty, Edgebrook Addition. Mike Struck will present this item.
Thank you. House moving may seem a little familiar, as it was approximately September where we approved the same house to be moved. Unfortunately, on the application, it was discovered after the fact. They put the wrong legal description. They put the lot next door to it to the south. They actually wanted to put it on Lot 4. So because it requires a public hearing, there's a legal address, public notice associated with it, we have to go through the process again, but it's moving to the lot right next door to the north. It's part of the section of 6th Street between 12th and 13th Street, I believe, that is proposed for redevelopment. It's one of those houses, the second one in from the east that is being relocated. I believe pictures were provided in the packet. Staff supports the request, and I'd stand for any questions you may have.
Moved. Second.
Been moved and second. Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, council have any questions or comments? Councilmember Avery.
Mike, I just drove by there today, and I thought maybe they talked about that before, and it looked like they demolished the garage, but I suppose that's part of the process, that they had to take the garage down and then move the house.
It got a little interesting with the route and the width and trying to get the house. So yes, they do have to cut portions of the garage and potentially have to take a one bedroom off the structure to be able to maneuver it down the streets. There was issues, I believe, when they got on 20th Street South with some of the trees and light poles and trying to maneuver down those streets. It just wasn't wide enough. I believe they have to go east out of town, head south, come back north, and they couldn't come down 22nd Avenue because of obviously the construction, but also the railroad was an issue crossing that, as well as trying to maneuver around some of the traffic lights. They can swing the arms on those, but I think it was some of the existing things on 20th Street South that were posing some concerns for them.
Is this going to be done after construction?
I believe they have to have the houses moved by a certain date in June, or they're being tore down. So they're trying to move them as quickly as possible. There's potential that they could, they'll have to get creative in the timing to try and minimize some of the disruption.
Thank you.
Please call the roll.
Avery,
Aye.
Duran,
Aye.
Niemeyer,
Aye.
Rasmussen,
Aye.
Specker,
Aye.
Tilton Burn,
Aye.
Wendell.
Motion passes. Item 10H, public hearing and action on temporary alcohol application for the Brookings Cubs Baseball Group for a temporary alcohol license to operate within the city of Brookings, South Dakota for the 2023 Brookings Cubs baseball game season to be held at Bob Sheldon Field, 530A Elm Avenue. Sean Scott, our Deputy City Clerk, will present this item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A temporary alcohol application has been received from Brookings Cubs Baseball Group for their 2023 season at Bob Sheldon Field. Dates for this license are May 17th and 21st, June 1st, 5th, and 7th, and July 10th, 15th, and 23rd. The first license they were granted was in 2019. No issues have been associated with this request in the past. All required documents have been submitted. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Sean. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment on this item? Close the public hearing. Does the council have any questions or comments? Please call the roll.
Duran,
Aye.
Niemeyer,
Aye.
Rasmussen,
Aye.
Specker,
Aye.
Tilton Burn,
Aye.
Wendell,
Aye.
Avery.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 10I, public hearing and action on temporary alcohol application from the Brookings Area Chamber to host a series of events for downtown at sundown on the 300 block of 5th Street and the 400 block of Main Avenue on July 27th and August 3rd, 10th, 17th, and 24th of this summer. Sean Scott, our Deputy City Clerk, will present this item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A temporary alcohol application has been received from the Brookings Area Chamber for the Downtown at Sundown event. This event is scheduled for July 27th and August 3rd, 10th, 17th, and 24th. The first event was held in 2015. All required documents have been submitted. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Is there any public comment on this item?
My name is Kelsey Doom. I'm the president and CEO at the Brookings Area Chamber of Commerce. We appreciate the partnership with the city for Downtown at Sundown. Last year, it brought over 18,000 people to downtown Brookings over 5 weeks. This year, we're expecting 25,000 people over the 5 weeks. We have the mayor's favorite band, Ivory, coming back for week 1. Rowan Grace, who was just seen on The Voice and was, I think, final 3, is week 2. Week 3 will be Soca Jukebox, which we will be having a new element to our Downtown at Sundown, which is some themed nights. We'll have multicultural night with Soca Jukebox. The following week is going to be our new resident welcome week, and the final week is SDSU week, which will be land on the first week of classes. It used to be the week before classes was the last week of Downtown at Sundown, but with the Chamber's initiative to try and get more students into the community, we switched that to be 1 week later. So the alcohol sales that we have at the event help to fund the event, which is one of the reasons we were able to decrease the ask from the city in our city application. So we appreciate your partnership, and thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Close public hearing. Any questions, comments from council? And yes, I am excited to see the band again. Please call the roll.
Niemeyer.
Aye.
Rasmussen.
Aye.
Specker.
Aye.
Tiltonburn.
Aye.
Wendell.
Aye.
Avery.
Aye.
Duran.
Aye.
Motion passes. Other business, item 11A, action on a preliminary plat for blocks 1 and 2, Trails Head Addition. Mike Struck, our Community Development Director, will present this item.
Thank you. The action item before you tonight is approval of a preliminary plat for the Trails Head addition. This is located at Main Avenue South and Trail Ridge Road. This is the one that we just took previous action on the rezoning. They're proposing 2 blocks within this preliminary plat. Block 1 is the area where they'd primarily focus on the standalone residential structures. Block 2 would be where the mixed-use project is. Talking with the applicant, the reason for going with the preliminary plat with 2 blocks is protect themselves in the future for potential transition of ownership to family members, separating out those 2. However, we kind of have to look at it as one overall project because their utility plans, their grading plans, their drainage plans all coincide, as well as their parking plans coincide with each other. This does come to you with a unanimous recommendation. Staff and development review team have both reviewed it and recommend approval, and I would stand with any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mike.
So moved.
Moved second. Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, council have any questions, comments? Please call the roll.
Rasmussen.
Aye.
Specker.
Aye.
Tiltonburn.
Aye.
Wendell.
Aye.
Avery.
Aye.
Duran.
Aye.
Niemeyer.
Aye. Motion passes. Item 11B, action on initial development plan for the planned development district of blocks 1 and 2, Trails Head Addition. Mike Struck will also present this item.
Thank you, Mayor and members. Item before you tonight is approval for the initial development plan. You've acted on 2 previous items tonight that got us to this point with the rezoning request and your last. The initial development plan really gets into more of the details of the actual site. It shows the locations of the structures. If you can see the diagram, it shows the mixed use up near the Main Avenue side of the street. To the west is more of the residential independent structures. They have the landscaping plan showing there 2 access points. I should mention one of the kind of questions, concerns staff had with the initial proposal, and I think in talking with the applicants on it, we proposed that the Main Avenue access point be an entrance only. We felt that for the safety of the traveling public, that was maybe a little close to that intersection of Main Avenue and Trail Ridge Road, trying to make left-hand turns to go northbound out of this particular site, crossing 3 lanes of traffic to get to the inside lane on the northbound. We felt there was is more internal. You'll see coming off of the Main Avenue, there's an immediate kind of entrance point that goes into the building. That's the covered garage parking area. There's commercial slated on the southern end as well as on the west end of this particular building. The shared parking in between the 2 main uses, the mixed use and the residential to the west. There are garages associated with those residential uses. And then there's kind of that center court, which is a landscaped area that is available to all the tenants on the site, provides kind of a public gathering space for the users of this space. You know, the hope is to also be able to incorporate some of the commercial activity and residential and the mixture of uses in there. With that, you know, I would stand for any questions. It does come with a unanimous recommendation from the Planning Commission. The staff and development review team both support the request, and the applicant is available for questions. Thank you.
Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second. Is there any public comment on this item?
My name is Angela McKillop. I'm the owner of Rise Design Studio, the architecture firm that's been hired to develop this property on behalf of Minor Family Investments. Mary Jo is also Mary Jo Minor, is also here this evening if you have any questions for her. Mike introduced the site very well, but I am here to address any other questions if you have them. Really the goal of this planned development district is to provide a coordinated mixed-use development, bringing together aspects of living, working, and recreation into one development. That is the final piece, the capstone piece of the Indian Hills development. As a part of that, really thinking about this site holistically, being sensitive to the residential neighbors to the west, but also sensitive to the fact that we line a commercial corridor district that has been outlined in your comprehensive plan as an area of focus. Really thinking carefully about the stewardship of the land and the way that we're giving back to the city of Brookings through a pocket park, landscape features, and public plazas. It's been a pleasure to develop this site, and we look forward to sharing more with you as we continue on this development plan. I'll stand for any questions if you have them.
Close public hearing. Council questions, comments? Pretty excited about this. I know that there's some neighboring businesses down there pretty excited about this also, Mary Jo. Very nice setup. Thank you. Please call the roll.
Specker.
Aye.
Tilton Burn.
Aye.
Wendell.
Aye.
Avery.
Aye.
Duran.
Aye.
Niemeyer.
Aye.
Rasmussen.
Aye.
Okay, pretty much done for the business tonight. We'll talk about introduction of topics for future discussion. Anybody got anything coming up that they'd like to discuss? Councilmember Wendell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item on an agenda for a future study session, topic to consider security downtown. And I'm a little cautious to use that term, but I think we've heard from some business owners. I've heard from some other residents in the core of the community that now might be a nice time to just have a conversation to understand the way the Brookings Police Department is patrolling downtown, new challenges we see downtown. I think it could be an opportunity to invite our partners at SDSU potentially to join us, if there's a representative from the Division of Student Affairs that could join us, and some downtown representatives. I think there's some building owners and storefront operators that really have a vested interest in this topic, and I think we could have a nice conversation in a study session to understand if we've got gaps in current state.
Any other comments? Member Specker.
I'd like to be added on to that study session, which is looking at possible ways to help with the water drainage. I know that Well, I was just informed from Holly that the Sheldon parking lot actually was porous parking lot so that you could get absorption of the water. And it was sort of used as a test to see how it holds up, and I was wondering if someone could report on that as possible ways in the future to get at this water issue.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, our next meeting is May 16th. We're going to have comprehensive plan discussion, future land use amendments, possibly building on a floodplain. Depends on if we get the stormwater master plan as far as we need to get it, and then presentation of capital improvement projects by John Thompson. That meeting will start at 5:30 next Tuesday night. And with that being said, yes, sir.
Would any council members want any official action on those two suggestions for the study session, or can staff schedule those?
I'm comfortable with staff.
I'm happy with staff.
Right. I know Paul's taking notes here, so he knows what he's got to get. All right. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.